we reached out. I remember when we had this conversation and you had said we should reach out to people to find out if they had questions. And
Yes.
we did do that and sort of got a poll. So I know you've talked about some of these things in the course of the interview, but I'll just ask the question. So Chinelo sent in a question and she said, what habits contributed to your success in life?
The first thing is that I know that I'm only one person. Therefore, I try not to behave as if I was more than one person. And that one person has a history. I know what I was told as a young child. I know what my parents told me. I know the examples that they showed me. Therefore, I allow those things to stay in my memory. And thirdly, I now say to myself, now I have the capacity, God has given me the capacity to tell what is right from what is wrong. And therefore, I actually know that certain things are right, certain things are not right. Now, what God has done for me is to also give me the capacity to choose which I'm going to do. That's where my problem begins. Because now, there are some things that I say, if I were to do this now, the immediate result is that I would be. And then my heart says to me, yes, but after that, what happens? What happens to the other people who should have had your attention and to whom you paid? So because of that, I find that my habit, because the question is what habit? My habit is never to forget that there is always a picture that is larger than the one I'm seeing now. There's always a larger picture. And because I have the capacity to consider that larger picture, I must deploy that capacity and look at the larger picture so that my decision today can be sustainable for whatever length of time it's going to operate. Because one of the things we forget is that anything I decide today is likely to have repercussions tomorrow and thereafter.
Yes. So I asked this next question from Erutayo, and she says, as one who is about to be a graduate in the next 2 months from the university,
Yes.
what would be your advice to that individual?
Well, I don't know what course you've gone through in the university, but whatever academic gains you've made from the university, have you grown as a person? Have you grown in yourself? Are you better now at handling situations than you were when we went? Because one of the things you're supposed to learn also in university is how to be your own person. Let me explain. When we're in secondary school, before university, we depend on our teachers to tell us things, to deliver lessons, and to even give us homework so we can do well. When you get into university, the emphasis changes. What you get told in the classroom is the smallest part of what you learn. But in order to learn the bigger part, you have to go after it yourself. In some courses, they give you 10 books, and each one is, you can use a lifetime to read it. And they say, that's the literature. Now, you must select what you're going to read. You must select what you're going to use it for. And eventually, you must select those things you will just look at and not go with. So the emphasis changes. You're no longer a dependent person. You're now emerging as a personality of your own. Now, if by the time you graduate, you haven't yet come to the point where you are making your choices with confidence, then something is wrong. It is being able to choose those things with confidence. That is the other part of going through university. And if you've done that, if you're graduating in 2 months' time, then ask yourself, have I made up my mind what I want to do? Or am I just going to launch myself on the job market hoping that someone will pick me up? No, that's not how to go. I said in the earlier part of this interview that before I graduated, I knew I wanted to be an education officer. And I worked towards it. After my degree, I asked my father if I could stay another year to do a postgraduate diploma in education, because I knew I would need that for what I wanted to do. So you have to make those choices. And the truth is, these days, most people come out of university and they're looking for someone to offer them a job. That is only one of the ways you can deploy your capacity. Look around you. See what the needs are of this society. What are the problems we're dealing with? Which are the ones that look as if nobody is doing something about them? See whether you have an opportunity here to deploy your intellectual capacity to find answers to certain things. Believe me, this marketplace is looking for someone who takes that kind of initiative and says, all right, I know this is virgin territory, nobody is doing it, but I know I can do it. And you know you can do it only because the one who made you has given you the capacity to do it. So if you're graduating in 2 months' time, please choose what you want to do it prayerfully, ask the Lord to guide you, and He has promised that He will never leave you, He will never abandon you to yourself. So you're on good land.
I'm going to bunch these 3 questions together because I think they're similar. Blessing, Fadishaye, and Grace. First person said, how did you survive this world till now? There are so many things that can make one give up. The second person said, what do you do on days when you feel like giving up? And the third one was also, my question would be, how do you manage to live life daily with all its uncertainty?
Well, let me confess that I cannot remember ever wanting to give up. And I mean, if I could remember it, I would tell you. But I don't ever remember thinking, now look, this is not working, or just this is the end of it. No, I've never felt that way. What I've always felt was that, yes, this particular thing I'm doing now is coming to the end of its sustainability. I'm no longer enjoying this particular place. It's no longer fulfilling what I want to do. Therefore, I will look for something else. I've always felt that way. So my first advice is, remember, the Lord did not bring you into this world so you can give up. You must not give up until He decides it's time for you to go. That's the first thing. The second thing is that if you look at yourself, yes, today it may be that you're doing some specific thing. Sometimes sit by yourself and ask yourself, what else could I be doing now if I wasn't doing this? What else do I feel attracted to? What else do I feel capable of doing if I was not doing what I'm doing now? Because there's always some opportunity somewhere which you could tap into if only you give it some thought. When I was leaving broadcasting at the age of 45, a lot of people thought I must be off my, I must be losing balance or something. But the point is, I felt that there was so much more that I wanted to do. So many other things that I wanted to, be interested in. And broadcast, just as my life as education officer did not give me everything I thought I could. What? So I found I was in the same position here. So it's not to give up, it's to say, right, what next? And I mean, the other day, the man came to see me, and we were talking, and I was in my 70s then, my upper 70s, and I told him that I was enrolling for a university course, that I wanted to study something, and that I had found a university that was offering it. He was, I think he was scandalized, actually.
I'm sure he was in shock.
But the point of the matter is this. As I said, one of the beautiful gifts God has given me is the capacity for learning. And so I see something and I say, my goodness, I've never thought of this thing before. This course that they're offering, let me find out how it can. And I have discovered that it works.
So to ask, did you take the course?
Oh yes, I'm still doing it now.
Oh, right now as you're speaking?
Right now, I still have my days when I'm concentrating only on studying what they send to me. No, because look, I have found that now people call me to come and talk to a group of people or come and deliver something. I don't know who I'm going to meet there. And when I finish talking, somebody comes to me and says, look, I have a problem. And if it's an area in which I've taken some interest, I'm more competent to discuss it than if I actually knew nothing about it. So yes, I
think this just buttresses one of the points in your book, and you said lifelong education feeds on the constant updating of knowledge through learning.
Yes.
And the university should give priority consideration to preparing students for post-university learning.
That's it.
By guiding them to adopt the practice of what Einstein calls holy curiosity.
Holy curiosity. That's it. That's it. You see, what is it that makes life interesting? What makes life interesting? If you've been doing the same thing day after day after day, year 1, year 2, year 3, and you're doing nothing else, it becomes boring. It becomes humdrum. Now, the fact that you can always see something new and go after it, not because I want to earn a degree, not because I want to change my job. In fact, now I don't have a job. But simply because I think I have capacity for learning this thing, and who knows? I may think I may never need it, but something may happen. And somebody who needs help in that area may come across me and say, look, I have a problem. And when I talk to the person, he thinks, oh my goodness, this fellow is very clever. Well, what that has happened is that I learned it at some stage.
Someone sent in a question that I thought was very interesting, the way it was worded. And I'm going to ask, it says, success is going through a series of failures, being knocked down and getting up again. What is the one thing you feel that set you up for success?
Well, in fact, I've failed at a number of things. And as I said earlier, by fixing myself in a narrow groove a bit too early, I lost what might have been opportunities to do other things. Okay, God has given me the ability to make up for some of that. But I believe that when you let me give you an example. I was controller west of the NBC, and I had very fixed views about how people should behave at work, what they should or should not do. And so if somebody came with a style that I was not used to, I made up my mind very quickly that this person is on the wrong side of this. And on one occasion, I actually wrote a confidential report about an officer and said, some quite uncomplimentary things about him. And then I found out several months later, with greater experience of the same man, he was not like that at all. That I had made up my mind too soon. And this was, if you like, a lack of maturity on my part, that I didn't give myself time to work through certain things. So for me, I considered that a failure of my capacity to manage that situation. But I have learned also in my time that all failures provide the opportunity to learn. You fail at something, and you can use that as a way of learning to do it differently, learning to even go into a different activity altogether. So, yes, as I was saying about my time at Uweli, there were things that I did, and I thought I was right. Now, if they didn't work, I thought somebody else was wrong. But I've learned since then that there are ways of knowing that there's always more than one way into any decision. And you have to be patient and educate yourself as to what the larger consequences will be if you go in certain directions. So wherever I have failed in that respect, I have learned something. And for me, that's the most important thing. Because if anyone lives this life and cannot record any failures, then he's lived a very, very unbalanced life.
Thank you for saying that, because people always say, there's this question they ask, what is your greatest fear? And people are the fear of failure. No, failure is a part of the system.
It is. And you see, actually, someone said, I read it somewhere, that if you fail today and you try to correct yourself tomorrow, it's one way of saying, Almighty God, I'm wiser today than I was yesterday.
True.
And isn't that a good thing?
Totally.
Yeah. So.
Thank you. Failure is never the end of the world. It's the beginning of another world.
Absolutely.
Entirely.